Hello everyone, my name is Kuba Gjenda and I'm a project coordinator at ARCUS. We do want to note that the presentation in the main Zoom room will be recorded and breakout room discussion will not. So later today we'll be breaking off into breakout rooms in about 15 minutes. You'll be able to self-select any of the following themes. If you know which theme you'd like to explore, we'd ask you to remember that and note each theme number. And I'll put these in the chat in just a second. For folks on the phone, I'm just going to read those off real quick as well. Theme 1 is co-production and Indigenous/traditional knowledge. Theme 2 is interdisciplinary research, networking, and team building. Theme 3 is outreach to broader audiences. Theme 4, Arctic STEM education from K-12 to postgraduate level. And Theme 5, COVID-19 challenges in Arctic research and education. Theme 6 is diversity, inclusion, and belonging. So we still have a little bit of time here, but if you already have a theme in mind and you'd like to rename yourself now to self-select that theme, some instructions are on the screen here. Now to actually start the meeting and get us kicked off, I'm happy to pass it off to Victoria Hermann from our ARCUS board. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kuba, and hello, welcome to the 2020 ARCUS annual meeting. I will be your MC for the next few hours to guide you through this awesome experience. My name is Victoria Hermann. If you have not yet met me, I am the Managing Director of the Arctic Institute and a proud board member of ARCUS. I remember the first annual meeting that I came to when I found out that I was a new board member, and the warm welcome that everyone gave me to the board and this greater community. So I hope that you have your morning coffee, your afternoon tea, your evening cocktail, wherever you are zooming in from today. So you can use these next few hours as an opportunity, yes, to help us brainstorm what we can do in the year to come, but also to catch up with old friends and make new ones. So today, while we are not going to introduce all of our board members individually, I will ask that our board members give everyone a wave in your camera so folks know who you are. If everyone could just wave and say hello, because I will now be passing it off to the Executive Director of ARCUS, Helen, who will give us a bit of an introduction to our awesome door prizes. Helen, take it away.
Thanks, Victoria. Yeah, I'm Helen Wiggins, the ARCUS Executive Director. So I get the fun job of talking about door prizes for 5 lucky participants, which we are doing as just a small gesture of gratitude for you joining our annual meeting. And typically for prizes, I would go shopping at a local store here in Alaska, but since we are in virtual meeting land, the door prizes today will be a $50 gift card from either Amazon or Etsy, winner's choice. And in just a minute, I'll have board members select 5 numbers, which will correspond to meeting registration. And then during the break, we'll figure out who those people are and we'll announce the winners at the end of the meeting. So let's see, I'll call on 5 board members to each pick a number between 1 and 276. So I've got Diane, you're up first. Number between 1 and 276.
23.
What was that?
23.
23. I said 183. Okay, 23. Great, thanks. Peter?
76.
76. Okay, Dave Cairns.
201.
01. And Corey.
I got 159 on my random number generator.
Awesome, 159. And last one, Adrian.
Number 8.
8. Okay, great. Thank you. And again, stay tuned to the end of the meeting to see if you've won. And I will hand it back over to Victoria.
Thank you, Helen. And I will say that I love all of the hats and costumes that I am seeing, not just on our ARCUS board, but throughout this Zoom. If you haven't already done so, I would highly suggest that you check out the gallery view to see all of these awesome hats and costumes. And to document this grandiose occasion of all of us dressed up virtually, later in the evening, we'll be taking a group photo. So keep those costumes on or have them at the ready for after the breakout session, where we'll be taking our group photo. While we won't have time to go through all of our member institutions, I'll also ask that the representatives of these member institutions wave at us in your video or say hi in the chat. If you have not already checked out their member updates, which was an awesome PDF that was emailed out to everyone, please check that out after our meeting or head to our website to see all of the incredible accomplishments, programs, initiatives that these ARCUS members have done in 2020 and see who the member rep is to maybe reach out and say hi and find new collaborations and friendships in our ARCUS community. So hi members, I am so happy that you are all here. So getting down to our ARCUS staff, who are really the backbone of everything that we do and creating this incredible space that we have to come together virtually for our annual meeting. Our ARCUS staff are our go-tos for all of the programming, all of the webinars, all of these spaces to come together, not just today, but in the year that has just passed and the year to come. So ARCUS staff, if you could please wave now so everyone knows where you are. I see Kubo waving, I see Betsy waving, I see Brandy waving, Lisa, awesome. All right, there are so many incredible staff members. Reach out to them, say hi and introduce yourself, and make sure to come to some of our upcoming events and networking virtual spaces so that you can meet them and get to know the projects that they are working on. Thanks everyone on the ARCUS staff. Today we have some big goals that we want to accomplish, but overall, this is a meeting for us to hear from you, to reconnect with you as an ARCUS community member, and to see what you want us to be in the year to come. Our goal is really to bring us all together, to meet, to talk, and to connect. And we'll mostly be doing that in our breakout sessions. We want to hear a diversity of ideas to inform ARCUS activities for the next year. And we want to discover who may be interested in working together after the meeting. In your breakout rooms, we'll be asking you to answer some broad questions and to get a discussion going around co-production of knowledge, interdisciplinary research, Arctic STEM education, outreach to broader audiences, COVID challenges, and diversity, inclusion, and belonging. But we'll also ask you to keep being involved after this morning, afternoon, evening, because we want to build up not just partnerships, but friendships with each and every one of you to keep working on these big ideas so that we can implement them in 2021. Now, after this meeting, there will be a brief report that will go out so everyone can see what exactly each breakout group talked about, and that we can have that as a blueprint to move forward in the year to come. Over the next 2 hours, we will be going through a breakout discussion session where we'll go into different breakout rooms, about 10 people each, and get down to real one-on-one discussions rather than me or other board members talking at you like we have in this plenary. We'll take a break so that you can leave camera mode and go grab a drink, pet your dog, anything that you need to do in that 10 minutes, and then come back. And we will take our group photo after we come back but also hear about what the big takeaways were from those breakout groups. We'll have each of the leaders of those breakout rooms, which are ARCUS staff members, board members, past board members, friends of ARCUS, that will tell us what happened and what we can learn together. After moving into maybe some room for discussion and follow-up before moving on to what comes next, and closing this meeting by going back to Helen and seeing who won these awesome door prizes. As we are going into our breakout rooms, Kuba at the beginning of this call went over the big themes for each of these breakout rooms. If you have joined us more recently, or maybe need a reminder, there will be 6 themes to our breakout rooms. The first is co-production and Indigenous and traditional knowledge. The second, interdisciplinary research, networking, and team building. The third is outreach to broader audiences. The fourth is Arctic STEM education, from K to 12 education all the way up to postgraduate level. Our fifth is COVID-19 challenges in Arctic research and education. And finally, our sixth is diversity, inclusion, and belonging. These are posted in the chat. And again, if you would like to pre-select which one of these breakout groups you would like to be moved into, you can go over to the name on your participant tab and ask to rename yourself and put the number of your group that is preferred in the front of your name. Again, those different themes are in the chat, and you can go ahead and rename yourself now. Those breakout rooms will only be 10 or so of us, so we'll get into real discussion. And this whole meeting, in addition to the breakout rooms, but here too is a come as you are. We welcome all of the dogs. My dog, I'm sure, will join us very soon. The cats, the friends, anything that is going on. This is a space that is welcoming. But if you don't feel comfortable turning on your video, that's totally okay too. We want to hear from you speaking up or putting your ideas in the chat. The big goal of this, again, is to hear from you so that we are informed by all of your ideas and your vision for what ARCUS should be doing in the future. Now, we will be moving you to the breakout rooms. Our superstar tech hero, Kuba, will be doing that on the back end. And if you are calling into our annual meeting, please stay in the main room and we will help you manually get into whatever theme you want to dig into after everyone has moved into the breakout rooms. Each breakout room will have a facilitator that is already assigned, and will have a note taker that will help us move through these different big questions that we have for us to answer. And again, we'll be taking notes in these breakout rooms and reporting back just the key highlights, but we'll have a whole report from this annual meeting so that you could see exactly what was said and where to follow up. If maybe you are in one group, but you're really interested in the conversation that is happening in another. And finally, if you are having some technical difficulties and you need any help when you are in your breakout room, please look at the Ask for Help button. And one of our ARCUS staff members will zoom on into our breakout room and help you with any of the questions you have. Or you could always leave the breakout room and re-enter the main room to make sure that all of your technical Zoom questions are answered. Okay, so I am seeing that lots of people have renamed themselves already. As a final reminder, if you have not already done so, you can go over to your name, hover over that More button, and click Rename. And you can put 1 through 6 on which theme you want to talk about in these breakout sessions. All right, I think that that is all for me as your MC, and we will slowly but surely be heading out into our breakout rooms to get down to that awesome discussion part, the bulk of our meeting. So we will be moving you on the back end to these breakout rooms. And Kuba, I don't know if you want to zoom back in here and give any final instructions as we are going into these breakout rooms. But I very much look forward to being one of these facilitators, and I will see you all back here after the breakout room discussions.
Fantastic. Thank you, Victoria. You did a fantastic job explaining that. And I think, Britt, the breakout rooms are about to open and people are zooming off into them. And I hope you have a wonderful time. We'll let you know 5 and 10 minutes to go with little announcements before time runs out. But hope you have a wonderful breakout session.
Hello, everyone. I'm sure you missed me in your breakout rooms, except for my awesome breakout room, which got to hear a lot more from me. Welcome back to our shared space. I hope you took these last few minutes of our break to grab another coffee, grab another drink, grab your dog like Marbles, who has joined us, because we are ready for our group photo. There are 100 of us on this call right now, which is an incredible display of our ARCUS community. I will be handing it over now to our official amateur photographer for ARCUS, Kuba, who will coordinate this group photo. Official amateur photographer, would you like to take it away?
Fantastic. Thanks, Victoria. Hello, everyone. Welcome back from the break. If you haven't already, great now to turn on your cameras if you're comfortable doing so. Put on those silly hats, those silly costumes. We're just going to take a quick photo here, 2 photos actually, just to capture everybody. Just going to say 1, 2, 3, and then cheese, and then I'll take that photo. So 1, everybody ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, fantastic. And we're going to move on to and do it one more time here. Everybody smile, say 1, 2, 3, cheese. All right, fantastic. And that's it. We got everybody. Thanks very much.
Thank you, official photographer. And thank you to everyone who has such amazing costumes for themselves and their pets. This is the most fun that I have had on a Zoom in months. So thank you for your squid costumes, your Yoshis, your hats, your polar bears, all of these awesome, awesome costumes. We have a little tiger in Stacy's Zoom. This is amazing. If you have not done so yet, you should definitely turn it to gallery view and see all of these awesome costumes. It is making me smile uncontrollably. But getting back to our official business here in our annual meeting, we want to know what you discussed and what your key takeaways were from those breakout room reports. So I'm going to hand it over to another ARCUS board member, my good friend Diane, who is going to guide us through our 1-minute breakout report outs from each of our big themes. Diane, do you want to come on and take the virtual mic from me?
Great. How do you all? So we're excited to hear what you discussed in your breakout rooms, and I imagine because I saw some other comments, we just barely got into it and could have kept our conversation going for hours. It was really great, and I hope we do get to do this again. Just a quick note, we are really hoping for a very brief, the 1 minute is serious. So in these report outs, we'd really like you just to share a key or maybe two key top issues that came up, or aha moments, or things that we need to dig into. We will be looking at your notes and writing these up, as Victoria noted before. The other is, in order to be respectful of your time and the time of others, when your 1 minute is up, if you are still talking, there will be a loon that will give us its lovely sound in there to let you know that time is up so that we can move to the next folk. We just thank you again for your time, and know that we will look at those notes to get more than we know we're giving you time to share right now. And with that, we're going to move on to the first theme on co-production and Indigenous traditional knowledge. And Meredith LaValle was the facilitator. Would the person who is the rapporteur like to identify themselves, unmute, and share for a minute?
Hi, Diane. Thank you so much. This is Kelly Ulig from NOAA's Arctic Research Program and the RNA Arctic Cohobs effort. And I was both note taker and rapporteur. So we talked a lot about the fact that, well, I guess first we want to recognize that we didn't have any Indigenous participants in our group. And so acknowledged that the value of co-production is really that it should begin with building relationships in Indigenous communities and organizations. Researchers need to be able to make the time to listen and to listen in the right way. And that co-production should really be in regards to meeting community needs. Along those lines, funding agencies and mechanisms are currently not necessarily set up to facilitate co-production, a true co-production model, and that agencies really need to be a little bit more flexible when they fund researchers. Furthermore, agencies and researchers also need to be able to build in methods for compensating Indigenous peoples for their time and their knowledge. As far as actions, we talked really quickly about how maybe we could work towards building a matrix that is co-produced with Indigenous elders and community leaders that helps Western scientists acknowledge the value of place-based knowledge. There was also a comment that Indigenous knowledge from the interior is often underrepresented in these sorts of conversations. We tend to focus more on kind of the marine sector. So yeah, I don't know where I am on time, but thank you guys so much for the great conversation. And if anyone from Group A wants to contribute.
Well, thank you so much. And within time, good model for the rest of us. All right, so theme one, Group B, the facilitator was Julie Raymond Yakubian. And if you could send your rapporteur for it.
Lisa, actually the facilitator for that one.
So I'm the rapporteur for that. Oh wow, I'm hearing an echo. My name is Alice Duvivier. And so there were a number of Indigenous community members or representatives in our group. The big theme we talked about was that there's an interest in including Indigenous communities as equal partners in research projects now, but that communities have been overwhelmed by requests to collaborate, and they don't necessarily have the capacity to field these requests or to accommodate the researchers. And so we talked about several concrete things we can do, or that ARCUS can kind of do, or lobby for. So the first is that scientists really need to engage communities early, like at the brainstorming phase, and start to develop relationships. You also want to just make sure that community relevant priorities are represented. And it would be great if this is maybe something ARCUS can do, but lobby to be able to get funding for community partners at that brainstorming phase, because that can take a long time and be really challenging, but people don't necessarily have the time or capacity to put into that to make sure that there truly is an equitable co-production going on. The second thing is that scientists should work with Western collaborators on approaching communities to minimize the number of requests and leverage possible existing relationships with the communities. And sometimes Western scientists need to realize it may not it may just not be possible for everyone who wants to work in the Arctic with a community to do so, and not to necessarily take it personally, but that's just the reality. And then the final thing we talked about was that there needs to be equitable funding and recognition for community partners who don't necessarily have institutional infrastructure to manage all the minutiae of what goes into a proposal, or they may not have ivory tower qualifications, so like a PhD, but they're still experts, and so they need to be equally recognized as the expert and compensated for their time, and setting up better frameworks through funding agencies and such to make sure that that happens. If there's anything anyone else wants to include, please do.
I heard a loon in the background. It's a little quiet, Helen. You might need to volume up that loon. So we'll move now to theme 2 on interdisciplinary research, networking, and team building, and group A, which was facilitated by Joe Hardesty.
All right, I'm Karen Jones, and I'm going to report out for our group on this. So this group is very diverse. Basically, we built our recommendations around best practices. And we started with what we thought would be important, which is a series of virtual workshops and themes around best practices for interdisciplinary research and opportunities to connect researchers. But we also discussed, how do you harness the wisdom of the crowd? We talked quite a bit about crowdsourcing and also satellite connectivity. And one of the key themes with that is, how do you openly share? So open best practices around open data sharing is going to be very important for this, and perhaps open standards. And by open data sharing, we mean something that's accessible and downloadable. We also discussed how best to do this using cloud platforms, et cetera. So again, these are best practices around data sharing, harnessing crowdsourcing and the wisdom of the crowd, and best practices around data standards in order to do that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So we'll go to group B, and Molly McCammon was the facilitator and your rapporteur.
Hey, I'm the rapporteur. My name is Maureen Biermann, and one of the first things our group sort of identified or recognized was that a lot of this sort of interdisciplinary research is occurring around cross-cutting themes. So rather than emerging out of like very detailed questions or specific disciplinary kind of focuses, it's these broad themes like climate change or sustainability that are driving a lot of this research. We talked a lot about various hurdles related to this research, or different abilities of people to participate in interdisciplinary research, often shaped by where they are in their careers. There was sort of a recognition that younger generation students, newer people in academic careers are more likely to be interested or driven to participate, while at the same time there are often hurdles to doing this. So figuring out which journals to publish in and how that might affect, for example, your tenure prospects are some of those hurdles. We talked about, in terms of solutions and ways of facilitating this kind of interdisciplinary research and collaborations, increasing online networking at various conferences that are already occurring, possibly having ARCUS develop some sort of panel on a cross-cutting theme, for example, like climate change in the Arctic, and then inviting different people to speak on the panel, talk about their own research, and figuring out how to navigate and negotiate building new collaborations. Also targeting and figuring out how to incorporate the right people from the very beginning. And this can again be a challenge when there's newer scholars that are interested in participating but might have limitations to doing so. But their names might not be recognized. For example, they might not be so easily identified. Those are sort of some of the major things we talked about there. Yeah, thanks.
Wonderful. And finally, in theme 2, the third group, which was facilitated by Victoria Hermann.
Yeah, hi, this is Laureen. I'm going to fill in for Victoria, I suppose. And sorry, my big computer screen is this way, even though my camera's that way, so I'm going to talk this way. So we we talked about kind of the external components of interdisciplinary research, and that there seems to be somewhat of a lack of acknowledgement of the value of interdisciplinary research and buy-in for interdisciplinary research, and that ARCUS might be able to highlight the value to early career researchers. And then there's an internal issue. Somebody said that, used the hotel metaphor, where we're all we sit in our own hotel rooms and don't necessarily, even though we're part of the same building, don't collaborate with each other. And that ARCUS, like it was in the past, could again be a leader in writing science collaborative plans and in creating connections. And that's all that we have.
I like that. That's wonderful. So it is my pleasure now to hand off the facilitation role to Peter Webley.
Thank you, Diane. Hello, everybody. I realized I was muted. Trying to keep the background noise down. Not great Zoom practice there for me. Been doing it 6 months. I should probably realize where my Zoom button is. But I'm going to now be introducing the theme 3 and then theme 4, which will be on the following slide. But I'd like to bring up the group focusing on theme 3, which Kari Erickson was the facilitator for. And if the rapporteur can come forward for that group, we'll be able to hear your updates.
So we discussed a little bit about audience, the fact that there's at least 2 discrete audiences, those in the Arctic and those not in the Arctic. It's important to know your audience as well, regardless of what they are, so you can target your programming, and the good partnerships that have a 2-way flow of information so that everybody can figure out the important priorities and ways to deliver services is important. So it shouldn't just be a 1-way flow of information. Strategies can include a lot of different media to communicate information, everything from radio and social media to TV and print, and a lot of new forms constantly emerging. And data is an important part to facilitate and communicate as well, not just information, but the data now, being able to share data has been expressed by a few other groups. As far as recommendations, we had 2 discrete ones that came out. One is training on communication and how to reach different audiences. And we realized that may express itself differently for grad students and postdocs versus those later in their career. And also communicating with audiences that are young versus those that are maybe in different sectors but outside of your discipline. And the other was, it'd be nice to see briefs that discuss like 2-page information or videos or even seminars that share success stories of working with different collaborators to effectively reach a group. Because I think we all learn, and it helps our creativity seeing successes from other institutions. And that's all.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Kari, for leading that one. So I'm now going to move over to theme 4, and this was a group focused on STEM education, K-12 to postgraduate level. I was part of this group, and Janet, one of the ARCUS, Warbarton from ARCUS, was the facilitator. And I'll pass over to Sarah to lead the outcomes from our group.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Erickson. I'm from the Arctic Data Center. Overarchingly, there was a consensus that we're looking for a community that is composed of educators, students, organizations, and institutions to share materials that are created and create new materials that are relevant to the community. And in other words, we want to see a bridge built better between these students and educators and kind of create a network of folks that are looking for things or have materials. That kind of translates to how we'd like ARCUS to help is creating a working group composed of those individuals and organizations for anyone interested in education K through 16, because there's a lot of conversation that can be had from different age groups and backgrounds. And the working group would largely focus on those sharing resources, connecting those individuals and organizations, and how to maybe scale up those resources as necessary. The ARCUS group could also help us by establishing board members, staff members, maybe leveraging their current contacts or relationships, and kind of create a contact list that those who are in the educational community could then tap into if they wanted to get involved. Thanks.
Perfect, great, thank you very much, Sarah. So for the final 2 themes, I'm going to pass over to ARCUS President and Board Member David Cairns. Over to you, David.
Thanks, Peter. So for theme 5 about COVID challenges in Arctic research and education, the facilitator was Cheryl Rosa. And Cheryl, can you let us know who the rapporteur is?
Sure. I'm actually going to be the rapporteur. Renee Crane was our note taker, and I was kind of pulling out the pearls as we were going along. So I'm just going to go down my list. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Great. So we made the assumption that most people are aware of the fact that there were canceled cruises and canceled field seasons, but I wanted to pull out for the group some of the kind of high level important things that we discussed. COVID has caused upheaval, not just in professional lives, but also in personal lives. It's difficult to balance these things, you know, the kind of the personal versus professional life things. And a lot of people, a lot of researchers and other people are under abnormal or additional stresses. So it's good to keep that in mind with the juggling act. COVID is hitting graduate students particularly hard. They're unable to fall back on manuscript writing for the summer if the data you were supposed to be collecting would be for those manuscripts. So that was noted. There are serious local impacts occurring that are demanding the attention of the community members that you may need to work with, and you need to keep this in mind. There's places under lockdown that are having serious issues. Helping researchers is probably not the first and foremost thing on their mind right now. Better internet. We talked a little bit about broadband and connectivity. Better internet is not necessarily a silver bullet. Many people will still not find an electronic platform effective, and this may lead to bias in participation. We still need to try to develop in-person meetings and cultural context, develop the cultural context of how we communicate. So that shouldn't get left behind. And that there are huge changes, but huge opportunities here. And then we went into kind of what ARCUS's role would be. And we're on the verge of seeing complete restructuring of Arctic science potentially. And we need to kind of use a strategic position to rethink deeply how we respond to this. ARCUS could lead the way in reshaping Arctic research with other Arctic science organizations as partners. And examples of this would be helping with training of both local residents for performing social and ecological research locally for researchers, and then also training of researchers on how to work within these new COVID-related constraints, how to work with others to develop best practices on how to move around safely in the Arctic, develop white papers on internet and Zoom costs that can be used to justify funding requests to cover these often exorbitant pricing structures. And then finally, if ARCUS was able to serve as a kind of clearinghouse for data collected in 2020, we discussed how this data that was able to be collected will be extremely important. And we need to make researchers aware of what exists and how and what can be shared. ARCUS could potentially assist with this. Thanks.
Thanks, Cheryl. So for theme 6 on diversity, inclusion, and belonging, the facilitator was Diane Hirschberg. Diane, can you identify your rapporteur and go ahead and give the report?
Yes, so it's Erin Crowell.
I want to thank everyone on our panel. Our discussion was great and all too brief. We had very good, we had gender, ethnic, and interdisciplinary diversity, geology, biology, education, physics, policy, government, military, social science. So in all of these fields, from all of our perspectives, we agreed that there was a large problem in the lack of diversity in the senior positions of these fields. Just one example from Norway, the Geophysical Institute, that, the observation that at the graduate and undergraduate level, you had 50-50 gender, male-female diversity in the educational system, but when you got to the top of the field, women were only maybe 20% in those senior positions. Another example, looking at representation in the upper ranks of the military, where there's zero representation of Alaska Natives, for example, in the Air Force. Part of the problem that was identified was recruitment. People beginning career, younger people look to see who's at the top in their fields. And if they don't see themselves represented very well, they can just see that there must be some structural bias, and they may not feel that they can get anywhere in that field and not choose to join it. Another issue, I think, then was what can be done in the workplace. It was actually a big crossover with the COVID pandemic situation, in that the conflict between parenting and dual career professional households, where it is often falling on the women to take over more of the parenting and to take that leave of absence from their teaching or professional work. So that's hitting at them. There was another very interesting point on the difference between diversity and inclusion, the example of the Mosaic Project. I think we've all read about the dress code that was implemented that just applied to women on the voyage. The representation, gender representation among the scientists on the ship was 50-50 between men and women. So you could say that you had diversity, but that you didn't have inclusion. It was a special bias against the women in that situation. And then similar comments were made about other ways that the workplace can be uncomfortable and lead to women dropping out of their positions. And finally, a point that was made that I wished we had had more chance to talk about, but that with diversity and inclusion initiatives in different countries and different fields, we're now seeing, in some cases, a great deal of backlash against these initiatives. And it's not always accepted that this is a valid goal. So I felt there was a lot more to talk about. I think there's a lot of interest in this across all of our different disciplines and fields. And I think this is an important area. I'm glad we have this theme.
Okay, thank you for all of that. Victoria, are you up next?
I believe so, but whether we've lost audio.
Do we have Victoria?
Well, I think we can jump in just to, first of all, reiterate where we started earlier, which is that our next steps are, again, going to be sharing these discussion notes once we've had a chance to summarize them, and also hoping that if you are interested in continuing this conversation, that you will either share that on the discussion notes from your group, or you can send a note to any of us on the board, or to anybody who's on the ARCUS staff, because I think it's clear that there'll be some interest in working groups or other ways to keep tackling this, especially because for us as board members, we need to think about how we take action around our strategic plan. So thank you. This is hugely helpful. Also, again, we're going to be creating a report out of this meeting to share with our Arctic community. And if you have any interest in helping us thinking about how to take a very robust, rich, and complex conversation and getting that back to the community, we would love if anybody has some special skills in that area. Again, we're just so thankful for the feedback today and continuing these conversations because of our need to implement our strategic goals and objectives. And as we heard from, for instance, from Aaron about work that's being done in the Office of Polar Programs, these conversations are happening elsewhere. And so this is our chance also to influence a national and international conversation about this. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Victoria.
Thank you so much, Diane, and to all of our reporters from those awesome breakout rooms. I cannot wait to dive into creating tangible actions from your ideas. So we have about 10 minutes here before I wrap up everything and we get to those door prizes and who will be our lucky winners today to hear from you. If you have questions, if you have something that was really important from your breakout room that we didn't get to in those 1-minute report outs, now's your chance to share it with our whole group of 100 participants. You can raise your hand by going down to the participant icon and going over to your name and saying raise hand, or pressing *9 if you are on the phone to unmute yourself to raise your hand. You can also type your question in the chat box and I can read it out loud, or your comment. We want to hear from you in this little buffer of time that we have to see what we missed in those really short report outs and your big ideas for what ARCUS can do in the year to come. So I'll be looking over to see if we have anyone who has raised their hand. So you can come on and share your ideas, your comments with the biggest group. And if you want to put anything in the chat for me to read out for those who are calling in today, I will be more than happy to read those comments or those questions out loud. So does anyone have questions, comments, some really exciting takeaways that maybe we missed in those short report outs from your breakout rooms? We have a big vote from Sasha. We have Adrian saying that if you are intrigued by my Tuft Puffin Fascinator, check out other great wildlife inspired art with an Instagram. So you should definitely check that out. If anyone has any big questions for ARCUS, if you have big takeaways from your breakout rooms, including board members, if you would like to chime in here, now is your chance to share with our 100-person community. Anyone want to chime in here? Give it another moment or two, and if not, then I will take that as an acknowledgement that you all have so much that you want to say that you can't put it into a short report out, and you are going to join me and other ARCUS board members and staff in working groups after this annual meeting to come up with some action items. And Susan wants to know if we can go back to the previous slide to see some future involvement. And maybe that is an indicator, if I don't see any hands up at the moment, for me to talk about opportunities to stay involved. So I am so sad that we are not in a more casual in-person format that I can meet all of you and chat about who you are, how we can become lifelong friends in the ARCUS community, and what we can do to partner together and build something awesome. So to do this virtually, we have lots of opportunities to stay involved with not just me, but with our whole ARCUS family. You can learn more about all opportunities to serve on ARCUS committees or working groups on our website. You can also, as a reminder, put your names in those Google Docs so we can follow up with you and include you in our working groups. If you want to share what you are doing, what your institution is doing, you can contribute an article to the ARCUS Witness the Arctic publication or be a webinar speaker. I just submitted an article to Witness the Arctic that I was really excited to do. It's short, it's easy, and it lets everyone in our community know what you're up to and how to engage with you. You could also learn more about taking part in any of the awesome Arctic programs that we have by visiting our website and just going through that dial on the top to see all of the programs that we are running today. You can help us find collaborations for an Arctic research-related project and event by reaching out to our staff, our board, to see how we can help connect you with other members. We have an incredibly diverse member list, and we would love to help you find connections across disciplines to create true interdisciplinary teams. You could also share announcements, news, or requests for input more broadly with the Arctic research community by letting us know what those announcements and news items are so we can include them in our newsletter and on our social media channels. And finally, you can learn how you, your organization, or 5 other organizations you know that aren't on this call, how they can become members of ARCUS by visiting our website and clicking on that member tab. There's also lots of immediate ways to engage with us with a few save the dates. In December, we will have some ARCUS community coffee chats, which will feature me, other board members, and other ARCUS staff members that we can have one-on-one chats or a small group on what comes next for 2021 and how we can continue to work together or answer any questions you might have about ARCUS. In January, we'll be having an Arctic Funders meet and greet hosted by ARCUS, which I highly encourage all of you to attend to get to know Arctic funders, to chat with them about your ideas and see how various Arctic funders can support your project. And finally, in February, we'll be having an interdisciplinary collaboration networking event that will bring all of us together again, but in a more intimate and a more interactive way than me talking at you for 3 hours. All of those will be found on our website and also in follow-up emails from ARCUS. As you are leaving, you will be getting a survey to let us know how we did and what we can do to best support you. That survey will be shared in the chat, and you will also be getting it in your follow-up emails from this meeting. I promise it will only take about 3 minutes. It is a super short survey, but it really helps us to know what we can do to improve our service to you. So please, please take 3 minutes out of your day to complete our survey. And with that, I will hand it back over to Helen for our really, really exciting raffle of who has won our door prizes.
Great, thank you, Victoria. Okay, so there are our winners: Julie Loisel, Maureen Biermann, Gary Wilson, Elizabeth Matthews, and Zeke Baker. You have won a $50 gift card to either Amazon or Etsy. So I will be in touch with you individually to arrange that. It'll be your choice for Amazon or Etsy. Just to thank you for joining.
Thank you, Helen, and congratulations to our door prize winners. Woo! Very exciting. We can't wait for you to collect your door prizes. And we are so, so thankful for having all of you join us today. Unfortunately, we couldn't spotlight all of you, but I want to remind you again that you can check out what all of our ARCUS institution members are doing by looking at that PDF of our annual updates of all of our members. It was included in the email that was sent out to you when you registered for this event, and it will be up on our website. And if you're curious about what ARCUS is doing, we have a really, really engaging and awesome video that's on YouTube now from our board members and Helen that will share what we have been up to, our strategic aims, and what you can do to engage with us. This has been a really wonderful annual meeting, and even though we weren't all together in one space, drinking and eating and laughing at jokes, I hope that you felt welcome and that you have a reason to engage not just with ARCUS as an organization, but as a community, and to revisit old friendships and make new ones through our upcoming events. So I think with that, we are just about done with our meeting. We have one final person who would like to say something before we close out. Aaron, I think your hand is up for some final thoughts. So maybe you can unmute yourself and come on.
Oh, thank you, Victoria. It's really just a question if there was so much good information sharing within the chat. I'm not sure how that can be sent out to all of us so we can capture all of those links that are there, but could we have that as a product of the meeting?
Absolutely. We will be collecting the links that were shared and those updates and including those in our report out, which will also include the key takeaways that you heard from our report outs of the breakout room, but also a bit more information. So absolutely look for that report that we'll be putting together for all of the information that you have heard here. And this recording will also be posted so you can go back and visit this fun time where all of us put on silly hats and dressed up.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. I can't wait to have those follow-up conversations with each and every one of you in December during our coffee chat. But until then, I hope you have a warm, maybe snow-filled, maybe warm tea-filled autumn wherever you are. And I hope that I see you at our next ARCUS event. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, and almost weekend. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Victoria. Thank you, everybody, so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.